Have you read a story in the Draoithe Saga and come away with a classic case of immersion after effect? Let me guess, there are questions which remain unanswered even as the magic expanded, adding another layer to the dream. The grand desire to turn the page to discover what happened next ended with the last leaf turned. If you're asking where the remedy for the book hangover is, you know the answer: read another story. But you aren't ready for the next tale, not yet. The dust needs to settle before you pick up the next volume. So you have found your way here. You aren't alone. Even the author can't get enough. As you hear this, Ophelia Key writes on. But allow me to offer you a possibility, a reflection on the tale you recently finished, and a way to revisit the story to ease the story blues. Welcome to the Draoithe Saga After Party. Warning, spoiler alerts ahead. Turn back now if you wish to read the story blind.
Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really plunging into some fascinating sources. They open up this world called Draoithe.
Yeah, it's described as a place where, myths, legends, fairy tales, they're not just stories, they're walking around. It's quite strange and wonderful, apparently.
And this specific deep dive, it's based on excerpts from a saga, a really big story.
Right, and it's all about a pretty crucial time in Draoithe, the founding of an immortal kingdom. The whole point seems to be pushing back against, forces that are messing with the magic of the dream itself, unbalancing it.
What I find interesting is how it's told. It's through the eyes of the people actually building this place.
Exactly. It focuses a lot on individuals, often couples, who seem to find their place through being connected to Draoithe.
Now, just a heads up for you listening.
Yeah.
This material we're diving into, it does deal with mature themes. So it's intended for 18 plus.
Yeah, expect things like adult situations, fantasy violence, and possibly some explicit sexual content, just so you know.
So our goal today, we want to unpack these sources, really get to the core of this world.
Look at the challenges, meet some of the key players, these inhabitants.
And understand the really unique kinds of magic, and maybe especially the relationships that the sources describe.
Right. Let's step into the dream, shall we?
Okay. So, this world, Draoithe, you mentioned balance earlier.
Yeah, the sources keep coming back to that. It's like equilibrium isn't just an idea, it's almost, physically manifested sometimes. They often say balance is found, quite literally, in a life mate.
So that bond, it's more than just emotional.
Seems fundamental, like it ties into the world's magical harmony somehow.
And right now, that harmony is off.
Definitely disrupted. That's the big driver here.
Yeah.
The reason they have to build this immortal kingdom is to act as a sort of shield, a bulwark, against whatever's causing this magical imbalance in the dream.
You compared the structure to old sagas.
Yeah, think like maybe those old Norse or Icelandic tales. It feels like that kind of grand, sweeping story, a big history playing out.
But focused.
Exactly. It zooms in, it tells that epic story through these smaller, really intense personal stories and relationships. You get the big picture, but through the eyes of the people living it day to day.
And those people.
Yeah.
Quite a cast of characters.
Oh, yeah. The sources introduce us to this core group, the sort of heart of this new kingdom. They're called the Druid Pack.
Okay, who's in charge?
At the very top, you've got Luke. He's the alpha,
Okay.
a direwolf, and he holds this title, Rurik. You can think of that as like the highest rank, the king, basically, in their structure.
Gotcha.
But he's also the practical one, the CEO, the visionary, pushing the whole construction and business side forward.
And he has a life mate. You mentioned life mates are key.
He does. Eli, she's a tiger, the alpha female. Her title is Ribanak, so effectively the queen consort.
That's her role.
She's described as a powerful dream walker, which sounds important given the whole magic of the dream thing.
Mm-hmm.
But interestingly, she also has this very grounded side. She's a high school history teacher and contributes to the pack as a writer.
Balancing the mundane and the magical.
Seems like it. Then there's Javier. He's the beta.
Second in command.
Right. Another direwolf. His title is Ruiri, like a high-ranking lord. He runs security, and he's also a business partner with Luke.
Does he have any special abilities?
Oh, yes. Uniquely, he uses both phoenix flames and ice magic.
Oh, fire and ice.
Yeah. And the sources give this key bit of backstory. Luke actually made him a direwolf shifter to save his life.
Wow, that must create a really intense bond.
You'd think so. And Javier's mate is Isabel. She's an artist, and she's a phoenix.
Ah, connecting to his flame magic, maybe?
Could be. She's also the silent owner of the art gallery they're building, which is called the Labyrinth.
Cool name.
Yeah.
Who else is in this inner circle?
There's Fox, another Ruiri, so high-ranking. He's head of intelligence and also a business partner.
Intelligence chief, okay.
He also commands Phoenix Flames, like Javier. The sources really stress how protected he is, fiercely protective, especially of his mate Artie.
And he has other skills.
Seems like it. He's got this intuition, like he senses things instantly. It even mentions him picking up on thoughts from someone else later on.
Like mind reading.
Kind of implied, yeah. And his mate, Artie, she's the PAC's accountant and a researcher.
Practical skills again.
Very. But she also uses white magic for healing. And she teaches stick fighting, interestingly enough.
Quite the combination.
And there's a bit of history there, too. The sources say she's dealing with consequences from a broken oath in her past. Suggests these pact ties are, magically binding and serious.
Deep stuff. Anyone else in that core group?
One more mentioned prominently, Duncan. He's also head of intelligence, sharing the role with Fox, and another business partner.
2 intelligence heads?
Seems so. Maybe covering different areas. He keeps detailed journals, important records, and his specific skill. He can read minds and figure out someone's true intentions, their heart's intent.
Okay, that's incredibly useful if you're building a kingdom and vetting newcomers.
Absolutely invaluable. Which brings us to those newcomers, because Draoithe isn't just the pack, right? The sources show it acting as a sanctuary.
Drawing people in.
Yeah, attracting these really fascinating individuals who need refuge, and they end up playing pretty crucial roles.
Like who?
Well, first there's Andrei Alexandrescu. He's a vampire.
Right.
But not just any vampire. He's described as Zuhachi Unbound.
What does that mean? Is it important?
Very. See, most vampires in this world, the sources say, mainly just have enough magic to stay immortal. But this Zuhachi Unbound type, they wield powerful, active magic.
Like Andrei.
Exactly. In his case, it's fire and ice control, levitation, and speed. He's pretty old too, 227. His background is IT specialist.
Useful skills again.
Definitely. He used to serve a vampire princess. But he arrives at Draoithe seeking sanctuary because his home, his enclave, was destroyed. He feels lost, purposeless.
Draoithe offers structure.
Yeah, the routine and structure seem to appeal to him. Then there's Nadine Cruz. She's a Philippine eagle shifter, also looking for acceptance into the pack.
An eagle shifter, wow.
And the sources highlight something specific about her. She suffers from really severe insomnia, debilitating stuff.
Oh, wow.
But strangely, it's calmed just by Andrei being near her. Even his scent, which is described oddly enough as cool rain and moonlight.
That's specific.
Yeah.
And potentially significant given he's a vampire.
Right. And her profession. She's a researcher.
Interesting pairing with the IT vampire. We also meet Nicola Dimitriou.
Yes. The vampire princess.
Yeah.
Ancient, over 500 years old. She's the Vigestis of the Chiora Enclave.
Vigestis.
Seems to mean a powerful female vampire leader, like a matriarch or queen of her enclave. And importantly, she was Andrei's former princess. She's the one who turned him into a vampire.
So there's history there.
A lot of it. She arrives having donated a significant amount of money to Draoithe, but she's initially very ill. Poison.
Recovering at the sanctuary.
Yeah, and while she's there, she's putting her magic to use, working on developing force shield spells for the kingdom.
Force shields, okay. Useful.
Very. And she seems connected to Colic.
Who's Colic?
He's a bear shifter, also a powerful dreamwalker, like Eli. He specifically sought Mihaela out.
Why?
He believes she's his life mate.
A bear shifter and a vampire princess.
Exactly. Despite the huge species difference, which, given the relationship rules we'll get into, is a big deal. He's described as honorable, intelligent, and he's contributing practically to. He's building the pack's stables.
Okay, one more newcomer.
Yeah, Riker. He's newly turned, a brand new vampire.
Turned by who?
By Andrei, actually.
Oh.
The sources also imply he's a panther shifter as well, so maybe a shifter who got turned, he showed up wounded, needing help, and now, like the others, he needs sanctuary and wants to join the pack.
So this sanctuary, Draoithe, it's not just some hidden magical place.
No, what's really striking is that the sources describe it as both. It's a sanctuary for immortals, yes, but it's also a very real-world, multi-billion-dollar business venture.
A business? What kind?
So specifically, they're building a high-end vacation resort aimed primarily at shifters.
A shifter resort, that's niche.
But apparently a lucrative one. And the construction is intense. You've got the resort itself, a restaurant, Isabel's art gallery, the Labyrinth, a university called Soothsayer University, the stables, Calyx building, a corral.
University, too. Wow.
Yeah, and even talk of potential catacombs connecting buildings underground. It's a massive undertaking. They have a target move-in date of mid-July mentioned.
Okay, so physical construction is huge. But what about building the kingdom in other ways?
Right. Beyond the bricks and mortar, there's this absolutely crucial project, the sources detail, digitizing information.
Information?
Yeah, apparently there are centuries worth of research, records, lore about immortals, magic, all sorts of things. They need to get it all into a secure, accessible digital database.
That sounds like a monumental task.
It is, and this is where Andrei and Nadine become absolutely vital.
IT specialist and the researcher.
Exactly. They're working together alongside Duncan and Artie from the Core Pack on this massive IT project. Andrei's computer background, Nadine's research skills. It's a perfect fit.
How big are we talking?
The sources call it a massive undertaking. They're hoping to just make a significant dent initially, get it online in less than a year. Draoithe is throwing serious resources at it. New computers, phones, scanners, cameras potentially, salaries, the whole 9 yards.
And the process. It can't just be scanning, right?
No, it's meticulous. They have to itemize everything, describe it, translate old text, figure out how to structure the database, then upload it all behind a secure firewall.
And security is key, I imagine.
Absolutely. Fox, with his intelligence rule, screens the information. The really sensitive stuff is restricted just to the council.
So you can really see how these newcomers are finding their place, can't you?
Totally. It's not just about being given shelter. They're actively contributing in vital ways. Andrei and Nadine on this huge IT project, Colic building the stables and becoming the stable master, Mihaela developing defenses, even Riker is settling in and looking for how he can contribute and earn his membership.
It seems like contributing, being part of building this thing, is how they integrate and maybe even heal.
I think that's exactly it. It gives them purpose, belonging, it connects them to the pack's goals. And speaking of the pack, the sources do touch on the hierarchy.
Right, you mentioned titles like Riruek.
Yeah, Artie explains it at one point. There's an inner circle, a wider council, and these different roles or titles, Riruek for Luke, Ribana for Eli, Rurir for Javier and Fox. It's not just names. She emphasizes these roles are tied to their oaths, to their magic. It's a structure bound by something deeper than just agreement.
Oaths and magic. That leads us nicely into the relationships, doesn't it? Because the sources seem to put a lot of weight on connection.
A huge amount. That idea of finding balance in a life mate keeps coming up. It seems central to how this world works, magically and personally.
But the rules aren't the same for everyone, are they?
Not at all. They vary drastically, depending on species. Shifter mating, for instance, is presented as permanent. It's a bond for life.
Okay.
And interestingly, the sources describe the female often being the one to choose and even test the potential mate.
Just not how.
There's a specific example given with Nadine, the eagle shifter. The idea is the female eagle might drop a stick during flight, and the male has to catch it to prove himself worthy.
A literal test of skill and attention.
Seems like it. Also, crucially for shifters, if their chosen partner isn't also a shifter, that partner must possess magic.
So no mating with ordinary humans.
Not unless that human has magic, apparently.
Yep.
But the sources do explicitly say an eagle shifter can mate with a non-shifter as long as the magic condition is met.
Okay, so that's shifters. What about vampires? You mentioned Andrei and Mihaela.
Very different rules there. Vampire consorts. The sources describe these relationships as typically temporary affairs, not usually for life.
And the nature of the bond.
It's physical, intense, it involves blood exchange, biting. The sources are quite direct, calling it inherently erotic. One bit even says everything that vampires do is sexual.
Wow.
There's also a power dynamic in feeding. The weaker vampire typically feeds from the dominant one. And self-control, especially when feeding from non-vampires, is absolutely essential for a vampire.
And their magic. You said most just have immortality magic.
Generally, yes. Except for those who hold high ranks, like priestesses or those who become consorts, they seem to gain more power through that bond.
Which makes Andrei the Zuhachi Unbound really stand out.
Exactly. He's the exception. A vampire with significant active magic of his own. And this is where his potential connection with Nadine gets so fascinating.
Because she's a shifter, and he's this unique type of vampire.
Precisely. The sources spell it out. If Nadine, the eagle shifter, were to bond with him, because he's Zuhachi Unbound, It wouldn't be a typical temporary vampire consort thing.
What would it be?
It would apparently be a permanent, lifelong bond, much more like a shifter mating bond. And get this, it would elevate her to the status of a V-Justice like Mihaela, a powerful vampire leader in her own right.
Whoa! So bonding with him changes her status and power.
Seems so, and there's another twist. The sources note that in this specific type of bond, he would belong to her. She would become his source, his anchor. It flips the usual vampire dominance dynamic on its head.
Okay, that is fascinating. And the sources focus on them quite a bit.
Definitely. It's clearly a major storyline developing. It starts subtly, just friendship. They're working together on that big IT project.
A shared purpose.
Right. But then it deepens. There's the whole insomnia thing. Nadine's chronic, severe insomnia is calmed just by him being nearby.
That's a powerful, almost involuntary connection right there.
It really is. He starts staying with her while she sleeps, just quietly present. A simple act, but others in the pack notice it.
Are there other moments?
Yeah, they describe these unique times they spend together, bridging their different natures. Like when they're out, she flew and he ran. It was surreal. And later, it's mentioned again, he flew and he ran. He loved it. It shows them finding ways to connect despite being fundamentally different beings.
That's quite poetic, actually.
Yeah.
And the test. You mentioned an eagle test.
Right. There's this pivotal scene described. There's some kind of incident involving a panther. During the chaos, Nadine drops a staff she's carrying.
And Andrei?
He instinctively catches it, just reacts. Later, he reflects on it, thinks about shifter mating lore, and realizes that might have been Nadine maybe unconsciously performing that eagle test.
Testing his reflexes, his attention, his readiness to support her.
Exactly. Testing if he could catch her, metaphorically and literally.
So the attraction is growing.
Clearly mutual, yeah. And others see it, like Artie and Fox. But the sources make a point of Andrei's behavior. He's very gentlemanly. Despite having this powerful vampire allure, he doesn't push or pressure Nadine.
He respects her agency.
Seems so. His own feelings are apparently very clear, though. He wants her as his consort, views her as everything, the only one he desires for that role.
But he understands the implications. That it's different because he's Zuhachi Unbound.
Yes, he gets that if they bond, he would belong to her. It's a serious commitment. So serious, in fact, that he formally seeks Luke's permission, the Alpha's permission, to even court her.
Wow. What about Nadine's perspective? How is she feeling?
She's grappling with a lot of questions, understandably. Can this even work, a permanent bond with a vampire, given everything she knows about them? What's the real difference between being a mate like shifters have and a consort like vampires have, especially in this unique case?
And the vampire nature itself?
Yeah, she worries, will a vampire, even one bonded for life, eventually grow bored over centuries? Immortality is a long time.
And she has to figure out if her feelings are genuine.
Exactly. Is she drawn to Andrei, the person, the man? Or is it just his vampire nature, that inherent allure affecting her judgment? She needs to know for sure.
How does she plan to find out?
The sources mention a really personal, intense decision she makes. She realizes she needs to test the connection herself, directly.
Hi.
She decides to ask him to make love to her, but with a condition. He has to look directly into her eyes the entire time without looking away.
To see his soul. To feel the truth of the connection.
Something like that. To see if the link is real, undeniable, and permanent for her. It's a profound way to seek certainty.
And does Luke give Andrei permission to court her?
Yes. The sources confirm Luke grants it. So the pack leadership accepts the possibility, setting the stage for whatever happens next between them.
It's quite the potential romance arc.
Yeah.
Are other relationships explored?
Briefly, yes. It touches again on Kalik, the bear shifter, and Mihaela, the vampire princess. Their unwavering belief that they are fated mates, despite the huge obstacles.
That species bond.
Right. And it also highlights the depth of Fox's bond with Artie. It mentions he actually suffers physical consequences related to her past broken oath.
Wow, so their connection is so deep. Her past affects him physically now.
Seems like it. Really illustrates just how profound and magically intertwined these relationships can be in Draoithe.
Okay, so they're building this kingdom, finding connections. But it's not all smooth sailing, right? There must be challenges.
Oh, definitely. Big ones. The most obvious is the external threat. There's this figure, Peter Elliott.
He's the one unbalancing the dream. Or connected to it.
It's implied he's a major antagonist. And the sources make it personal for the pack. He's not just some abstract villain.
Yeah, so.
He's apparently responsible for killing Fox's previous mate.
Well, okay.
And he's the one who tortured and forcibly turned Javier into a direwolf before Luke saved him. So Elliot has directly harmed core members of the pack.
That history really raises the stakes. It explains why they need to build quietly.
Exactly. They need to grow strong, build their sanctuary, but stay under the radar because threats like Elliot are out there.
Are there internal challenges too? Within the pack or for the newcomers?
Absolutely. Andrei, for example, arrives carrying serious trauma from losing his home, his enclave. He struggles with feeling purposeless before he gets involved in the IT project.
That makes sense.
Nadine has her severe insomnia, but also underlying anxiety before she starts to feel like she belongs. And just the basic challenge of integrating all these different species with different rules, different instincts, that takes work.
You mentioned Fox being protective.
Yeah, his fierce protectiveness, especially towards Artie, sometimes bumps up against letting others, like Nadine, make their own choices and face their own risks. It's a natural tension.
And Riker, the new guy.
He's got a double adjustment, right?
Right.
Learning to be a vampire and potentially figuring out his shifter side, all while finding his place in a new, powerful pack. That's a lot to handle.
But the sources seem to suggest that the sanctuary itself helps?
Yeah, that's the core insight, I think, finding this place, Draoithe, and crucially, finding connection and purpose within it. That's what helps them overcome these things.
How so?
Andrei finds stability, a mission, and potentially love through his work and his growing bond with Nadine. Nadine finds more than just sleep. She finds this deep sense of being home, of belonging, which seems to soothe her deeper anxieties.
So Draoithe isn't just a safe house.
No, it's more than shelter. It's a place where they're needed, where they become integrated, vital parts of something bigger than themselves. That seems to be the real magic of the place.
So wrapping up our deep dive for today. These sources paint a really rich picture, don't they?
Absolutely. It's a world where this huge struggle for magical balance plays out on a very personal level, tied into that fundamental need for belonging, for purpose, for connection.
Draoithe comes across as more than just a setting for a battle.
Yeah, it's presented as this place of hope, really. A sanctuary where these individuals, often arriving wounded or lost, like Andrei and Nadine, Mihaela, Kalik, Riker, find the strength and the community to build something new together.
It really digs into these complex relationships, these unique magical bonds.
And that universal search, human or immortal, for security, for meaning, in what seems like a pretty dangerous world.
It definitely leaves you thinking. And maybe with this final thought for you to mull over.
In a world like Draoithe, where magic seems to bind destinies, where ancient rules try to dictate love and loyalty across species, how do individuals actually find that balance? That tricky line between the duty they might inherit, their own personal desires, and the path fate seems to be pushing them down.
Yeah. And what does it really mean to be worthy of someone else's connection, whether you're a centuries-old vampire knight seeking purpose or a powerful eagle shifter testing the wind, especially when the stakes feel like they could last for eternity?
Thank you for your support. For more, visit opheliakey.com. Welcome to the dream. Sincerely, OK.